Welcome to My Therapist is Out. Each episode, we talk with a therapist from Open Space Therapy Collective or LGBT community members about mental health and building community. I'm your host, Renae Johnson, licensed therapist and founder of Open Space Therapy Collective, where we are your hub for queer and trans mental health care.
As we dive into today's topic, please keep in mind that this is a mental health podcast. We will talk about sensitive and difficult issues that are not appropriate for all audiences. Please take care while listening.
Okay, here we go again. Welcome back to My Therapist is Out. We are having episode 2 of our Holiday Tips and Tricks Minisode. And today we have our clinical director with us, Kristen Crowe. Good to see you.
You too.
How are you feeling about the holidays coming?
They're a lot. They're a lot. Yeah. I feel like especially this year, they're a lot.
It definitely feels heavy after the election and like walking into the holidays. It's a different tone than it felt last year.
Definitely.
Well, we're going to dive into how to handle some of that heavier stuff as it comes up. So kind of to start off, like what are some like common challenges that you see queer folks going through, whether it's your clients or friends or colleagues or yourself?
Right now, it's a lot of, since we mentioned the election, right now it's a lot of like, I don't want to go home to my family because we don't have the same political values or that seems to be a big one right now. But there's also, I'm not out yet. And so I'm afraid that like they're going to start asking about who I'm dating or, misgendering, dead naming, all of the things that are kind of wrapped up. And I don't feel like it's anything specific. It's just a lot of that seems to be coming up and be more prominent.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially for people who aren't totally out to their family. Like they may be out to their friends or coworkers or community. And I know in LA, there's like your LA life. And then if your family is from somewhere else, there's that life. And you can't always be yourself in the family life. And that sense of really feeling invisible or like you have to hide parts of yourself is really tough.
Yeah, definitely.
What are some practical / your favorites or go-to mental health tips when you're doing holiday stuff, you're feeling like you have to hide parts of yourself? What are some things that you like to do or you like to recommend?
I feel like this year I've really been leaning into the like, what can you take with you that really feels like you and feels like home? And just having like, even if that doesn't come out and it's like in your hotel room or it's in your room at your family's house, like what is with you that's kind of feels like a connection piece. So it's kind of like a transitional object, if you will. That's, your security blanket that you get to take with you. And it reminds you that like, this is only temporary. I have my real life, so to speak, back home.
Yeah. What are some examples that you've seen work for people? Especially if like transitional objects are kind of a new concept to people.
Yeah. Let's see. Sometimes I feel like I've got a client who likes to read. And so like all the things are like on their Kindle. And so these books that might be, queer leaning. Okay, well then like I can kind of dive back into, and that's kind of more like what life is like. And I can be that person. Or a favorite article of clothing that makes you feel really good seems to be working for gender kind of things. So maybe you can't wear it out while you're with your family, but you could put it on like after you're decompressing from the day and going to bed. Something that just feels comforting.
Yeah. Like really in those kind of private moments, like both like reading a book and like what you're wearing to bed is very intimate and private with yourself. So really kind of saving that space and protecting that space.
Yep. Yeah. I kind of view like everything else that you're doing is kind of a buffer around yourself in some of those spaces, right? So what can you do to protect your inner self, and how can you reconnect to you when it's quiet time?
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. I'm like instantly thinking of some favorite things. Like I have this giant green sweater that makes me feel like a Teletubby, and makes
I
me
know this
just
sweater.
feel it's the best. It just makes me feel silly in a way that makes me feel good, and I know makes other people like, what the hell is that? And that is definitely something that I feel is very much me, and I can take into other places. There's some ways that you find joy, or people can find joy during the holidays, that feels very queer affirming.
It's been a lot of leading into chosen family kind of things. I can speak to like my own personal experience at the moment. Like a lot of my queer folks, friends, don't have family that we can go to. So we are creating our own space that we're just going to do something else that feels like us, and we can just be us without the mask and without that. But then I also think that there are some folks who are going home to families, and creating extra celebrations and creating your own traditions feels nice
Yeah.
that way.
Yeah, I think there's a sense that can happen of like, the family has always done it these ways, these traditions have always been like this, so if I go back, I have to continue to do these things. Where you can find allies in the family to create new transitions, or shift some of the transitions to make them more enjoyable for everybody, that makes it more inclusive, that isn't so silent generation stoic, or whatever the tradition tends to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. In the ways that just, gentle poking and prodding and shifting some things like this doesn't help everybody. Like, and you're right, finding allies and families is useful. And sometimes that's a really scary thing to do because you don't know going in.
And I think, I've seen in my own family, my parents' generation shift and change a lot, and some for the better and some for the worse. But in that, there's been kind of surprise allies, and some of it is cousins have come out, or people are getting married to somebody that's a little bit different and pushes kind of the norm, or the aunties, uncles, whatever, get different friends and are exposed to different stuff. So people who wouldn't have necessarily been an ally a decade ago, now I can lean on to help advocate, or be like, hey, I want to shift this thing. Do you have my back?
There are more spaces where that can be an option than we kind of just lean into those and be like, well, over here it could look like this. But we don't do men and women's gifts on Christmas.
What are some resources or mental health check-ins that you suggest, or people can do outside of, having that book or that transitional object?
I think I've been talking a lot about in sessions is creating connections. So knowing who you can call if you're feeling triggered or lonely or any other things, and knowing who, and having like a safety plan, but maybe not quite so strict, of who you can call that's back home. But it is a lot of like, what do I need right now? Do I need connection? Do I just need to hear someone's voice? Do I need someone to provide me reassurance? Do I need someone to, help talk me down from biting off someone's head? Like, what do I need, and who's a good person for that? And having those people already kind of like pre-planned out before you go. And then just having that emotional awareness of like, where am I and what am I seeking from the people that I'm reaching out to.
It's so important to have those like touchstones in those relationships kind of on deck, to be like, hey, when this thing happens that usually happens, I'm going to need to like text you and get on a phone call, or have you just like send me memes that things are okay, or whatever it is.
Yes, exactly. And having those people looped in, right? Like knowing this is what's going to happen.
Yeah. what are you going to do to prioritize your mental health over the next month or so?
I am going to spend a lot of time shifting traditions. Yeah, trying new things and seeing what feels good for me and my new chosen family.
Cool. I love that. Yeah, there can be so much newness here.
Yes.
That can be really, I don't know, reinvigorating of what like the holidays actually are.
Yeah. I'm actually excited to try some new stuff this year.
Cool. Nice. I love it. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. It's always good to see you.
Me too.
And as we have started to do in the fandom of The Daily Show, here is your queer moment of joy.
Okay, my name is Paula, she, her, and I work at LA Cyclery. Thank you. It's a bike shop down the road. A recent moment of queer joy that I have. Just yesterday, I went to Black Walnut Day. It's an event where basically Native people celebrate black walnut as a native plant from Los Angeles. And there was a lot of people there, and a lot of them were queer. And there was a lot of like queer young people, and that gave me a lot of hope. When I saw that many people involved in like conservation efforts and just getting themselves involved with, in general, climate activism and stuff like that, just like completely, like it brightened my day. It was really, really good.
Thanks for joining us. If you're in California and looking for a therapist, visit our website at openspacetherapycollective.com and book a free intro call with one of our therapists. If you're enjoying My Therapist Is Out, please rate, review, and follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. My Therapist Is Out is an Open Space Therapy Collective podcast. We'd love to hear from you about today's topic, so email us at info@openspacetherapycollective.com. You can find us on TikTok and Instagram at Open Space Therapy Collective. Thanks for listening.